Throughout his journey, Ash Ketchum has caught a lot of Pokemon. However, unlike people who play the game, he doesn't really fully evolve all of his Pokemon. In fact, some of his most iconic Pokemon are Pokemon who aren't fully evolved. So for this video, I wanted to rank all of his Pokemon that aren't fully evolved, that he still has obviously, no released Pokemon here, and I just wanted to see how they all stack up. For this ranking video, however, I didn't want to just do it based off of win-loss. That would be a bit too easy. I also wanted to include things like personality because if you're a boring Pokemon, then it's no fun to watch. With that being said, here is my tier list ranking. Starting it off, it has to be Ash's ace Pokemon, Pikachu. It's probably his strongest Pokemon, it's the Pokemon he's been with the longest, it's had the best battles, it's had some of its most impressive wins. There's nothing I can really say more about this Pokemon than what's already shown. It's in every episode of the anime, so obviously it's an S tier Pokemon. Another Pokemon that definitely deserves the S tier ranking is Ash's Bulbasaur. Believe it or not, it's the Pokemon that he's battled with the most in official matches with a total of 28. By the way, all of these statistics are given to me by Zezen96 and his Data is Beautiful post on Reddit. I will link it in the description so you can go ahead and check this out for yourself. It's awesome. He has all the matches there if you want to look at individual matches and everything. So shout out Zezen for that. But it's the Pokemon he used the most, and not only that, it's the leader of Ash's Kanto's team, being the big brother to basically all the Pokemon there since Charizard is a bit too lackadaisical. Not only that, it has a strong personality, and it's definitely one of Ash's most memorable Pokemon, so it definitely deserves this S ranking. Ash's Squirtle is an interesting Pokemon because the first season of the Kanto anime, it was pretty terrible, and it probably could have gone to C or D. However, it returns in both Johto and later in Hoenn, and that's when it has its moment to shine, because it has two major notable wins. One against Drake's Onix in the Orange League, and two against Brandon's Ninjask. Brandon's a Battle Frontier, and that Ninjask is a pretty high level Pokemon, so the fact that Squirtle was able to beat it makes it pretty impressive. So while it's not at the very top of Ash's Pokemon list, it's still not too bad of a Pokemon, so that's why it goes on the B tier. Ash's Bayleaf is next, and I think it also belongs in the B tier with Squirtle. Similar to Squirtle, it didn't really do much as a Chikorita, however it did get a win against Bugsy's Spinarak, which is pretty impressive since, you know, Bugsy is a gym leader, but it didn't really become good until it became a Bayleaf, and that's when it was able to beat Chuck's Poliwrath and his Machoke in a pretty impressive battle. However, the reason it's B is because after that, it really didn't do much. It was in the Johto League where it struggled against Gary, and it also struggled against Harrison. And it hasn't returned ever since we saw it last in the Hoenn League. It does have a very memorable personality though, being very clingy towards Ash, and because of that, even though it doesn't have the most impressive of victories, I think it belongs in the B tier. Probably his best starter from the Johto region, Kualava is definitely an A tier Pokemon. While it was one of Ash's lazier Pokemon as a Cyndaquil, it could really turn up in battle, and had some pretty notable wins as a Cyndaquil, including Bugsy's Scyther, Whitney's Nidorina, Whitney's Clefairy, Morty's Ghastly, Jasmine's Steelix, Price's Dugong. It's one of the only Pokemon Ash has had that evolved past its series, because it evolved once it got into Diamond and Pearl, and even there it tied with Nando in the Pokemon League. So while I don't think it's as memorable as Bayleaf, I do think it's a battler, so it definitely deserves a spot on tier A. The final of Ash's Johto starters, and his Totodile is unfortunately his weakest, while also probably his most memorable because of its super bubbly personality. Unfortunately, it did lose a lot more than it won, not by a lot. I mean, if you look at the official records, it's like 5-5 I think, but it lost a lot to gym leaders, and its most notable win is really against Harrison Sneasel in the Pokemon League. While it does have some fun quirks, unfortunately because it has a pretty weak battle prowess, I'm gonna have to put it in the C tier. One of Ash's more surprisingly powerful Pokemon, his Corpus is really flirting with the S tier. However, Ash's Corpus, while having some pretty memorable wins, has also had its fair share of losses. And I don't think it also possesses the leadership quality of like a Pikachu or a Bulbasaur. So while it's a really good battler and it's almost at the very top, I think it's just slightly below that very top tier, so I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, the order in the actual tier itself isn't the order that actually matters. It's just the ranking of the tiers themselves, because I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to rank them based off of regions, so I'm going region by region, as you can tell. Which means the next Pokemon on this list is Weasel, one of Ash's stronger Pokemon in the Sinnoh region. Similar to Corpus, Ash used Weasel quite a bit, and it has some pretty memorable moments, like its battle against Crasher Wake, as well as having a win in the Pokemon League against Paul. Not only that, but it also helped Ash develop the Counter Shield strategy, which he still sometimes uses to this day, and is a Pokemon Ash used in the Wallace Cup. However, similar to Ash's Corpus, it also has a lot of losses, which is why it's not up there in the S tier. And it wasn't a leader to Ash's team like Bulbasaur was, so it's not like I can excuse that either. Overall, a really strong Pokemon, in the cusp of being an S, but A is a pretty good spot for it regardless. Ash's Gible is another really puzzling unevolved Pokemon, even to a stage 2, because I would hope it would at least evolve to a Gabite, but the writers decided they never wanted to. It was a pretty late addition to Ash's Sinnoh team, and its arc was learning Draco Meteor, and it's successfully using it in the Sinnoh League. It has two notable wins, well really one notable win, which is against Conway in the league, his Shuckle and his Dusknoir, and its losses are to Barry and Tobias, so it's not a bad Pokemon. However, I just have to put it lower in the tiers to C because it just didn't have that much of an impact. It just wasn't in the series long enough to be ranked higher. It's very memorable and has a fun personality, but it only had 4 matches and really didn't do much in the series, so unfortunately, I can't give it a higher rating. One of Ash's starters in the Unova region, and unfortunately, Snivy might be the least memorable one. It has some memorable wins, like its battle against Clay's Palpito, and it has other wins, but I don't think they're anything too significant. I wanted to originally put it at C, but I do think it has battle aptitude. After all, it did abandon its previous trainer because it thought it was too weak. And I thought that one of Ash's other Pokemon from the same region kinda belonged on that list, so Snivy is slightly above a C, so it gets a B tier. And the other Pokemon I was talking about is Ash's Oshawott. Ash's Oshawott feels eerily similar to his Totodile. It's a more memorable Pokemon due to its personality, however, battle-wise, it's just not that great. Early on in the series, it won a little bit, especially when it was first learning to use Aqua Jet or learning to use the Scout Chops, but later on in the series, it just kept losing, and it had the side effect of coming out in battles it shouldn't have came out in and then losing, which made it seem worse than it maybe probably is. So although I like the Pokemon personality-wise, battle-wise, it's a pretty terrible Pokemon, so I'm gonna have to put it in the C tier. The final starter of the Unova region, and Ash's Pignite was definitely his best Pokemon for the longest time. As it was a Tepig, it had a similar story to Charmander, where a trainer abandoned it. However, just like Charmander, I feel like it should have gotten to fully evolved. It always felt like a Pokemon that should have, but it never did. But that's alright. It has tons of memorable wins, I mean more than I can list here. And for the first half of the series, until he got his Sandile, which eventually evolved into his Krookodile, this was his ace. So for being an awesome Pokemon for Ash's journey all the way throughout the Unova region, it definitely deserves an A. Probably the Pokemon with the most potential here, Ash's Rollo really should have been higher than C. However, after its original debut as a Rollo and showing some real nice powerhouse techniques and even allowing Ash to beat Clay turning into a Boldore, it never did anything after that, unfortunately. It would battle here and there, but after its loss to Cameron in the league, we didn't see it again until the end of the Unova anime. This Pokemon should have been one of Ash's powerhouse and should have evolved into a Gigalith, but since Ash never did, and it never really got character development after it evolved into a Boldore, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it into C. I do think Ash's Palpito is hated a bit too much because it was in a weird position. Ash already had a water type in Oshawott, so early on it was more of his ground type, but then once Ash got a Sandile, Palpito became redundant. It is a Pokemon that I think due to how it's presented, it's hated, but I think that could have been solved if it would have fully evolved, because it does have some notable wins like one against Elisa, Dino, who came second place in the league, and a double KO against Stefan in the league, so it's not like it's a terrible battler. But I think the thing that really hurts this Pokemon is just its lack of personality. Because it was sandwiched between two really memorable Pokemon, it feels completely devoid. And I'm placing it below Gible even though Gible did less than it, because at least Gible got a full story arc and learned the strongest dragon move there is. Palpito did no such thing, and unfortunately, I had to put at least one person in the D, so unfortunately Palpito, it's gonna have to be you. Sorry buddy. Ash's Craggy is an interesting case of a Pokemon that comes in really early in the series and has some early development, but doesn't really leave an impact in the series. And I think that's the biggest problem with it. It has some notable wins like beating Bryson's Vanillish and beating that one trainer's Darumaka in the league, and it has a few other battles as well. However, the biggest issue is that, like I said, while it got decent development in the early days, learning Focus Blast and High Jump Kick, later on in the series, it doesn't really change as a Pokemon. After the league, it shows up a little bit in the Decollor Islands, but it didn't do anything of significance. For being one of Ash's early Pokemon, it doesn't really keep that much of a lasting impact in the series, which is kind of insane when you think about it. I feel like this is another one of those Pokemon that should have evolved, but even if it didn't, the issue is that it just remained the same for way too long. Headbutt, Leer, Focus Blast, and High Jump Kick were the only moves that ever learned. I kind of felt like you could have done more with this Pokemon, couldn't you have? That being said though, it's still a battler and is one of those headstrong Pokemon who can battle if need be. However, that doesn't really put it enough for me to put it into the B tier, so it's gonna go slightly below in the C tier. What can you say about Ash's Rowlet that hasn't already been said? It's a Pokemon full of personality, but also one of Ash's stronger Pokemon. Not only does it have the ability to battle, beating out Kahunas and also helping in fight in the league, it's also a memorable Pokemon due to its sleeping in the backpack and its sleep being a significant part of its character. Poor How. It's one of Ash's stronger Pokemon also due to the fact that it can use a Z move. It had a significant win against Hollow's Crabrawler, Totem Lurantis, Olivia's Lycanroc and Probopass, How's Dartrix, and How's Decidueye, as well as Kukui's Braviary at the end of the series. Its only real downfalls are early on when it loses to How's Dartrix, and then Kukui's Venusaur after it escapes from its Solar Beam infested plant. That was an awesome moment. But besides that, it's just a Pokemon that is absurdly strong for something that doesn't look like it's that powerful, and because of that, it definitely deserves an S tier ranking. In Journeys, Ash doesn't have any unevolved Pokemon besides Pikachu, who's still a beast, so it looks like this is where our tier list is going to come to an end. What do you think of my tier list? I know people are probably going to disagree with me putting Palpito on D or Craggy on C, but these are just my opinion. Remember, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealPDGaming, and that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.